Well, would you look at that? All of my automotive enthusiast friends who are circumnavigating the globe. You did it one more time. You push play on yet another
guileless episode of V8 Radio, Kevin.
wait a minute, guileless?
Guileless, that's correct. It means to be
We're
honest,
guys.
sincere, or frank.
Oh, right on.
Yeah.
So we're frank.
We're frank.
A little shout out to our friend Frank Zimkowski. I thought you meant, we're both guys. We're not guileless.
Nice.
Yeah. This is the V8 Radio Podcast. I'm Kevin Ostie, joined as always by our esteemed co-host, Mr. Mike Q-Ball Clarke. And this is a guileless episode. How about that?
Pretty cool, right?
It's always cool.
Mm-hmm.
And we have a, kind of a tradition we created here at V8 Radio, which is involving automotive trivia, in the sense that we start every episode with an automotive trivia question, and we invite our listeners to play along at home.
That would be great.
It is. And our friend Frank Zimkowski, who we plugged earlier, he often does that. You can tell the pace of the show because he's posting his answers on the Facebook page and the comments as we go along.
You should post it at 10:27, then 10:35.
Right,
there he is.
Yep, there's a second question.
Yeah.
So the way we do this, we throw the questions out at the beginning, and then we answer them at the end, forcing everybody to be on the edge of their seats for the entire time between.
It's a real nail biter.
It is. All right, Mr. Q, have you, in fact, prepared a trivia question for this episode?
In fact, I have. Yes, sir. All right. This is going to be this is going to probably be one of my weirdest questions I've ever asked. But, it's going to be interesting.
Do I need to sit down? Or
It'll be memorable. Yeah. Right. Everybody should have a seat. Okay. We're talking about Studebakers now. And what model did Studebaker discontinue due to Adolf Hitler's rise to power?
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
So Adolf Hitler began rising to power in the late 20s and early 1930s.
Mm-hmm.
By 33, he was kind of in full power, right? 32,
I'd say
33. So. Yeah. So Studebaker canceled a car because of this, or just at the same time? It was
because of Adolf Hitler.
Okay. The Studebaker Nazi.
Is that your final answer?
The Studebaker. Well, Studebaker, interestingly, used terms in their names that were oftentimes, cultural nuances. So, for example, in the 50s, the baseline cheapest Studebaker you could buy was called a what? And this is not my official trivia question.
No, but we talked about this before. But I'll be darned if I can remember.
It was
what
this
that was.
Studebaker Scotsman.
Scotsman. That's it.
Because Scotsmen in the 50s in the U.S. were stereotyped as being cheap.
Correct.
So,
yes.
There you go. So along those lines, I would think that maybe somebody at Studebaker thought it was appropriate at some point to have a car with some kind of German tie-in with the name, and maybe that became offensive when Hitler rose to power?
Gosh, Kev, I don't know.
Wow. So what would the word be? What would it be? The popular socialist, the National Socialist Party, words that were used, the Panzer tank, and things like the Reich and the Third Reich, and then there's names like Hitler himself or Rommel. I don't think there was a Studebaker Rommel rolling around, but it was enough to where they had to stop production.
Correct.
Now, was it because they switched? No, because we didn't get into the war until the 40s. So
That's correct.
it's not like they pulled the plug on some car because they started making tanks.
That's correct.
Okay. So
And
this is
I will say no more.
Purely because Adolf Hitler was rising to power.
Yes.
Wow. This is a good one. I have no idea.
Mm.
But I got to say something because I can hear all them nail bites clicking.
The Studebaker something.
It's it. Yeah. What would be a good term for a car that was all of a sudden falling out of favor enough because Adolf Hitler was rising to power? Studebaker had a president, didn't they? Studebaker president. But that wouldn't matter at that point. But, oh man, you're killing me. This is one that I actually just want to know. I want to know the answer. Can I fast forward to the end and play it back and then come back? I can do the Bill and Ted's. I'll get in my phone booth and
Yeah, sure.
zap into the future.
Where's Rufus?
That's right. I actually listened to him today.
Did you?
Little George Carlin.
Nice.
Who was Rufus in the original Bill and Ted's.
Mm-hmm.
Man, I got to make something up here. The Studebaker. What was the Air Force was the Luftwaffe, so it wasn't that. What about the guns? The Studebaker Messerschmitt. Messerschmitt was a German car already.
Was it?
It was.
Huh. That I did not know. I knew it was a plane.
It was a plane, but it was also a German car, and it was a three-wheeler, like the BMW Isetta.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
A little micro car. See, 2 bonus trivia questions thrown out there.
You blew
so
it.
if I get this wrong, I'm good. Right?
Yeah, exactly. You made it up in the invented bonus.
I think it was the Studebaker. The Messerschmitt cabin roller with a K. Cabin roller was the name of that one. Yeah.
Nice.
All right, kids. Damn it, the Studebaker. They're in Auburn, Indiana, right?
Yeah.
Ay.
Well, they did
There's
have
another trivia question. Where's the Studebaker factory located? Auburn, Indiana.
Auburn, Indiana. At one point, it was in Canada.
Yeah, there was a couple of them.
Yeah.
Man.
Oh, man.
I got so nothing on this one.
Oh, man.
Okay.
It only took me 5 years.
Yeah, I know. All right, here you go. It's all hanging out, okay?
Let's do it, man. Do it.
And it's not offensive because they canceled it, but the Studebaker Swastika.
Swastika. Nice. Nice.
Of course.
Oh, man. All the woke people are going to kill us.
Well, I tell you what, it used to be a symbol of peace and holiness until the darn Germans.
Oh, they got a hold of that and they wrecked it. By golly.
They sure did.
Wrecked it for the next 1,000 years.
I was in an antique store over the weekend and there was a Stein with the swastika pattern all the way around it. Yeah, and it was made in the 1850s, I think.
Ooh, no kidding.
Back when it was still cool to have that on your beer stein. It wasn't like a German. I don't think it was really a Stein. It was just kind of a mug type thing.
Well, back when I used to go to, we're getting on a tangent now, but back when I used to go to American Legion meetings, there was a display case. And one of the members was a still living World War II vet, and he donated to the case some Nazi memorabilia, and he looked at me dead in the eye and says, I donated that I got from the war. I'm like, oh boy. Wonder how many Germans he got that off of.
He was referring to his own 2 hands brought it back. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, a lot of those Legion halls have like wall-sized displays of uniforms and
really cool stuff.
Yeah, amazing.
All right. But we digress.
Yeah.
Kevin, tell me you have a better question.
Yeah. Why are they called Nerf bars?
No, come on.
Yeah, that's it.
No. No. Why are they called Nerf bars?
Yeah.
No. Oh man.
It just popped into my head one day, and I thought, you know what? That's a good trivia question.
Oh my Lord.
In our second 100 episodes, we've achieved complete role reversal. I
Yeah,
think.
right? Oh, man. Why are they called Nerf bars?
Yes. Okay. Of course, referring to the thin, bumper bars you see on a variety of different vehicles.
Mm-hmm.
They're called Nerf bars.
Well, the Nerf, as we know it today, is a maker of soft toys, like a Nerf football. It's like a foam items.
Mm-hmm. It's a good way to describe Nerf is foam items.
Foam items, like a foam basketball, foam footballs, foam everything.
Yeah.
So I'm going to say that
if you're afraid of Nerf, are you foamophobic?
Okay, and the show has completely gone off the rails in just a few minutes.
Yep.
They are called Nerf bars, Kevin, because they are like an actual Nerf bar, like an actual Nerf foam. If you bump into it, it doesn't cause any damage. And the Nerf bar is there to protect your vehicle against incidental bumps from other vehicles. And it just took on the term Nerf organically.
It organically just
be like you bounce. It's a Nerf. Yeah, that's
right.
it. That's it.
So if you bump
Take
into
that,
it,
dashboard answer.
It does not cause damage, and gained the name Nerf organically.
Mm-hmm. I can't wait to the end of this show.
Well, most people can't wait till the end of the show. Wow. Okay. Duly noted.
Yes, indeed.
Right on. Well, that was fun.
Mm-hmm.
So, as we alluded to, this is the start of our next century of episodes, and you kind of started it off with a bang in a car crash.
I did. The Clarke family has lost a member, and that is my beloved Chevy Cruze. Bit the dust last week. But
you're not hurt.
No, I'm fine. I'm A-okay. I just had a touch of soreness in my back that lasted a day, but other than that, I was fine. It was a pretty low-speed impact. However, I was rear-ended, and the vehicle that I was stopped, and the vehicle that hit me had just pulled out of a driveway and accelerated right into me. But he was driving a Ford Ranger, whose bumper was higher than my own bumper, and whose bumper just crushed the whole trunk area and pushed it in and buckled.
So you did not receive a nerfing.
I did not get a nerfing out of that one. I'll tell you what. But it crushed the trunk area and buckled the rear quarter. And I got the word yesterday that it's a total loss. So,
man,
that's it. I'm on the hunt for a new vehicle.
What year Ranger? What generation?
It was a 2000 Ford Ranger.
And the person that hit you, is this a young person?
Young 19-year-old kid. He's on his way to school. He's a culinary student at a local community college.
Oh, wow.
So
right on.
super nice kid.
Yeah.
I didn't even get mad at him. I'm like, you know what? I'm fine. The car did its job. I have way more important things to worry about than that.
Right. Well, and you might have met, your personal chef now.
Yeah, right. I have his information.
There you go. Try him out.
Yeah, you got to pay off your debt, kid.
Was his Ranger twisted up real bad, or
nope?
Probably
The bumper was turned in slightly, and there's a corner light that popped out, and that was it. So,
well, I mean, that's good. It
Yeah.
didn't completely ruin his world either.
right.
Back in those days, I was a broke student myself, and if I wrecked my car, it would have been way minimally insured. I always carried liability insurance for everybody else, but if my own car got damaged, it was like, no, fix it or scrape it, buy another one.
Right.
Yeah.
But I've been in a rental all week, and I gotta say, I'm in a Ford Fusion.
Those are pretty cool.
I have got to tell you, I am really, really impressed with this car. And I've been a GM guy through and through, but this Ford Fusion's really making me turn my head. It's a 2.0 EcoBoost engine, and it pulls like a freight train, for crying out loud.
Yeah,
it is super, super strong.
Yeah, those are that's that 4-cylinder turbo car. They do pull hard.
They do. I mean, maybe I'm just used to the less than anemic performance that the Chevy Cruze has delivered for the last 8 years. But this thing really set me in the back of my seat when I got on it.
The Cruze was also a turbo car, right?
Yeah, 1.4 liter turbo.
A 1.4, so smaller engine.
Yeah, pretty small.
And what year was the Cruze?
2013.
13. So a little bit behind in the engineering of the EcoBoost, because
Yeah.
those are a little bit newer of a platform. But yeah, they're cool. And the rest of the Fusion for a commuter car like that, I mean, it would do pretty well.
It would do great for a commuter car, absolutely.
Yeah. But yours got totaled, and you're not necessarily looking for something similar.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
I'm looking for something a little more fitting a man of my stature.
Of course.
I mean, I bought that Cruze because at the time I was a field service technician, and I had to use my own car for service calls. And I had a Grand Prix GTP, and it was on its last legs. So I needed something a little smaller, a little more fuel efficient, a little more reliable. So I went to my local Chevy dealer, and I liked this Chevy Cruze, and I bought it brand new, and it fit, and it suited me perfectly. It did everything I needed it to do.
I didn't know you bought it new. Wow.
Yeah, my only new car I've ever had in my life. Probably the last one too. But,
well, I've never had a brand new car. So.
Is that right?
Yeah. But that's it's good that it did its thing. It took you around, and it saved you. So you didn't die by the Ford.
Yeah, that would have been tragic.
Yeah, absolutely. So now you're looking for
a full-size truck.
There you go.
Yeah, full-size crew cab truck.
So crew cab being 4-door standard box.
Yes.
2-wheel drive, 4-wheel drive?
I like 4-wheel drive.
4-wheel drive. Good move. Good move. We're talking GM products again?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So the Silverado or the GMC line?
Correct. Yeah. I've been scouring the ads. And those things move fast.
They do. It's really hard to buy a truck right now.
Yeah.
My neighbor Rick, good friend of mine across the street, was going to replace his 2006, 2500 Silverado HD with a newer truck.
Sure.
He was just wanted something newer.
Right.
Couldn't find anything.
Really? Wow.
Ended up special ordering a 2021 GMC Denali. That it turned out to be his only option.
Wow. That's
And-
crazy.
Yeah, and it really was like his only option at that point. He ended up investing more than he was expecting, but being a new one, he got good financing, and
Sure.
he was able to spec out exactly what he wanted. And it's a 3500, but it's a crew cab standard box non-dually four-wheel
Really?
drive. Yeah, and it is an amazing truck. I think it's got 15 cameras on it.
Holy cow.
Yeah, so when you get in the thing, you look in the rearview mirror and you push a button, and the rearview mirror becomes a TV screen, and it's a camera.
That's killer.
So it affords you the luxury of being able to aim the camera a little bit, change the view, and change the perspective. And there's cameras in the side mirrors and in the fenders, and you hit the button and you get the sky view. I forget what they call it, but the overhead view of the truck. Yeah. And this one has like zoomed in overhead views. So in one particular view, you're looking at the hood forward. So if you're going to park up against a wall or something, it has the sonar distance things.
Sure.
With the little gauge in the dashboard that shows you, you're 4 bars away, 3 bars, 2 bars, 1 bar. But now you can actually see from the overhead camera if there's something there,
That's crazy.
And same with the back. So you can hitch up to your trailer, and see overhead.
Oh, right on.
And there's nothing overhead. It's all stitching together all the different images from all the different cameras.
He's like a rolling group of paparazzi with all those cameras on that truck.
He is. The confusing part is trying to figure out how to use them all.
I believe it. I believe it.
And not crash. But it's nice. So I understand what you're saying, trying to find, because like you said, you're not looking for another new vehicle.
No, absolutely
they're
not.
a little pricey.
Yeah.
So we're talking, is there an age range or
anything newer than like 2007 and newer, up to maybe 2013, 2014 is generally what I've been looking at. Past that, it starts getting a little bit more than I really want to get into.
Yeah. And are we committed to gasoline, or are we considering a diesel?
No, we're not. I'm not married to gas. So
Uh-huh.
I could do a diesel if the right one came around. So
Yeah, you should get a diesel. That's my advice.
Thanks, Kev.
Well, I mean, so the hot one to have is an 07 diesel. The engine code is LBZ, and that was the first year of the Allison 5-speed automatic transmission.
Oh, really? Okay.
And it was the 1 year that they did not have catalytic converters.
That's what you had
Yeah.
before. Okay.
Yeah, same truck that I used to have. And it was a great truck,
Sure.
until I had to crash it and ruin it. But
That was a 2500 though, right?
it was a 2500 HD,
Yeah.
But the diesels are all 2500s.
Oh, okay.
So, but it doesn't have to be a long bed like mine was.
Right.
You can get a standard bed. And that's what Rick had, as a matter of fact. His 07 truck was a 2500 diesel
Is that right?
standard bed. I think he had right at 100,000 miles on it, I guess.
It's just broke in.
Yeah, the engine and transmission were just broke in. His was a victim of rust.
Really? Oh, boy.
And the thing that sucked is it rusted like brake lines and rusted fuel lines.
Oh, man.
And that stuff. And him and his wife got a nice surprise on their way to Colorado a couple of years ago, pulling their trailer on vacation, and the fuel system quit.
Oh, no.
And he didn't know. He took it to a dealer, and they raked him over the coals to the tune of like $5,000 to put a whole new lift pump, high pressure pump, lines back to front, fuel filter. I mean, the whole thing.
Youch.
So I mean, all that stuff was replaced on it, and he sold it. He got good money for it, I thought, for being that age and everything else.
Right.
But it's funny, the new ones kind of fall off in value after a couple of years, and then they land somewhere and they don't ever go down.
That's exactly what I've been finding.
Yeah.
Unless it's something's really wrong with it. Like if it has outrageous rust, then it's it's a lot cheaper. But anything that's clean has been right around the same price point as far as the miles are concerned on it. And that's another thing. I mean, there's a lot of these have 1 million miles on them. It's been tough to find something that hasn't been rode hard and put away wet.
They last, as long as they're maintained. So the gas side of things in a crew cab, you're probably going to find it at the minimum 5.3s and 6.0s.
Right.
They're great engines and they run forever as long as somebody changed oil on them. So we just did a bunch of work on I think it's an 08 Avalanche and a pickup truck. Couple local guys, and one of them was like way messed with. Somebody
really?
Built the motor and didn't know what they're doing and put the wrong valve springs in.
Ouch.
And didn't pay attention to geometry and had a lot of problems. And the other one, we were kind of doing little upgrades and tune up things and fixes and, gears and a torque converter and a tune and an intake and, that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And he needed a new transmission. It was a 4L60, which was kind of the problem, I guess.
Yeah.
And we put a new transmission in it. We have a local shop that builds transmissions for us. Normally a dynamite operation. Never really have a problem with them.
Mm-hmm.
We drive this truck about 100 miles, break it in, test it all out. Everything's fine. Customer comes to pick it up. He gets like less than an hour down the road. Transmission fails.
Oh, no.
Completely. Just neutral in all gears.
Oh, man.
and he calls us, of course, because it's like,
Yeah.
guys, what happened here? And he knew we subcontracted the transmission out.
Sure.
And he knew it was, warranted, but he's still stuck on the side of the road. So Brian, our parts guy, immediately called for a flatbed and had him picked up and off the side of the road and had the truck brought back to us and called the transmission shop, and we ended up pulling it and sending it back to them, and they're going to, warranty the whole thing. But
good.
The moral of the story is you just got to keep your eye out for indicators that these things have been driven hard and hung up wet.
Yeah.
So lifted, black wheels, fender flares, right? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Some of the bolt-on stuff.
Yes.
That's all indicators that somebody's been in that thing. And,
Yeah.
and I don't know that that's the one you want.
Well, those bolt-on things, like the bolt-on fender flares, all I see behind those are rust in my mind's eye. I'm like, they're hiding something with those. So that I tend to shy away from that immediately.
Well, and the other thing, and Rick showed me this too. Before he was even going to sell his truck, he was getting some rust in the cab corners along the bottom edge. His truck's white, so it really stood out.
Sure.
And he's like, I'm not going to cut the steel out and fix this thing because I'm just not going to do it.
Mm-hmm.
But he found these companies that sell composite, like plastic rockers.
Ooh, really?
And if you didn't know, you wouldn't really know because it uses a thin adhesive tape to stick in place. And then where the seam is, it lines up with the factory quarter panel seams.
Oh,
and you put seam sealer right back over it. So you open the door and it's like, there's no evidence. It's not like there's a piece of plastic curling off.
Right. Oh, man.
And I was super impressed when he put those on because he's like, I got these plastic rockers. I'm like, well, that's not going to work,
Right.
And then he showed me, he's like, hey, it's good enough for me. And I was like, wow, if you didn't point that out, I'd find it, if I was going to buy the truck.
Sure.
But just going down the road, you would know. So I would advise you to look for those things as you...
Thank you for that.
Because it's and he fully disclosed to the guy that bought it, from him, and the kid was fine. The guy who bought the truck is actually the younger brother of a guy that used to work for us, Nick, way back early on at the door when we first started. Yeah. So, and he knew, Rick told him about where the rust areas were and previous repairs and all that stuff, and he was fine with it. But
that's cool.
Yeah. So are you in that situation now where it's like, hey, I found one online. It's 110,000 miles and it's a color I can stand.
Yeah.
And I'm going to call the guy and it's sold.
Yep.
Yeah.
3 times this has happened.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it is what it is, and if it's not meant to be, it's not meant to be, and I'll figure something out. I got to figure something out quick because my free rental ends this Saturday, and today is Tuesday. So
yeah.
So I got to do something.
Yeah. Well, it took us a couple of weeks, 3 weeks, maybe a month. I don't know, probably a month to find our truck.
Is that right?
After I wrecked our R06. And, but we were super specific on what we wanted.
Mm-hmm.
We wanted a 2500 diesel crew cab, long bed.
Long bed, yeah.
And we wanted it in black.
Uh-huh.
And we found 3 of them.
Wow.
But they were, the closest one was the one we bought, and it was 300 miles away, 280 miles away.
Yeah.
The other ones were in different states. And if it was it could have been a tax advantage if it was in one state, because the sales tax was different.
Oh,
although
right.
Here in the state of the People's Republic of Illinois, if you will, they'll get you on that anyway. But
they will.
But you're looking local. You don't want to necessarily travel all over the country to find your truck.
No, I just can't right now. It's just
till Saturday.
Till Saturday. I can go all over creation Saturday, but until then, it's just not conducive.
So then you were suggesting that the other option would be to buy another car to be able to slow that search down.
Yeah.
And the car would end up being a hand-me-down to your daughter.
Correct. Yeah, I don't think I'm going to do that, though. So
I understand.
I want what I want, and I want it now.
Truck.
Yeah. Dang it.
I didn't get hit in the rear end for nothing.
That's right.
I'm
the one who got hit. I get the new truck.
Yeah. No, it makes sense.
Yeah, so.
Well, hopefully something turns up.
Yeah, I hope so. I really do. It's just, you really got to move so fast on these things.
Are you looking at dealers?
Yeah, primarily dealers, yeah.
Yeah. The other thing I'd say is if you find a private seller, there is the National Insurance Institute database, which is a free website, and you go there and you type the VIN in, and it will tell you if it's ever been stolen or totaled.
Ooh, I like that.
It's like a free mini Carfax, but it incorporates the stolen side.
Cool.
So look that up.
All right. I will.
Dealers, you don't really have too much of a worry, but if it's a private seller, you never know.
Yeah, that's good advice. More good advice. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, I'm telling you, man. Extra trivia questions, free advice. The show has value, man.
This show is free and worth every penny.
That's right. Free and worth less.
Oh man. Yeah, so that's how I started things out.
If you get the truck, I had halfway jokingly said a suggestion that, well, then you could get a camper and go out and start enjoying the outdoors again. And you told me that that's what your wife was thinking.
Well, that's what we're both thinking. Exactly. We'd love to camp again. We miss it. We had a pop-up camper, and we were pulling it with our old S10 Blazer, 4-door 4x4 S10 Blazer, and it was perfect.
Yeah.
And the transmission finally died on that truck. It had 268,000 miles on it. And
wow.
Yeah, and the body was great, but I just didn't want to fix it. It drank a lot of gas, and Jenny's commute was pretty long, and it's expensive. So we let it go, and then we got something smaller, more fuel efficient for her. But then we were sitting with this pop-up camper in the garage with nowhere to go with it, so we sold it.
Yeah.
And so then for the last 5-6 years, we've been without a camper. So
yeah, that's kind of a bummer. We've had campers since probably 2012 now.
Is that right?
Maybe. And we did tent camping before that. But once you graduate to a camper, it's hard to go back to a tent.
It is.
Unless it's like a giant hike or a mountain thing where you physically can't bring a camper. I'd be down for that. But to not have that would be a bummer, because it's nice to just go, hey, it's Friday, let's hitch up and get out of here.
Yeah.
And not have to worry about it.
Yeah, that would be nice. That would be nice.
In fact, Kelly and I had our first camping trip of the year last weekend.
Did you? Well,
Yeah.
you were out with Rick and Linda as well, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. And his new truck and their new trailer also. So Rick is very recently retired, a couple of months.
Yeah.
And his wife Linda's still working, but she's working from home. COVID kind of made that happen, and then the company she works for deemed that just a better idea, so she's home based.
Cool.
So she's kind of in a position of get your stuff done and you can do whatever. So last year, Rick was looking at his situation, his retirement and all the rest. And he's like, you know what? I've always wanted a good size camper, because he's a motorcycle guy. He's the local president of the Antique Motorcycle Club and the whole deal. So he needed to get something that had a garage in the back to be able to go to events with motorcycles.
Ah, right on.
And then he also has his daughter and his daughter's boyfriend in their mid-20s, and they like to go camping with them. And so it needed multiple beds, and now all of a sudden we're getting into a larger and larger and larger camper.
Oh, right.
I think theirs is 44 feet. I mean, it's big.
That's
yeah.
massive.
But it's got everything you need, and he needed a good, solid, reliable truck to pull this thing. So he stepped up and got the Denali. And the whole philosophy was, look, I'm fresh into retirement. I'm healthy. I can move around. Let's do it. Let's get something nice that we don't have to worry about, and go out and enjoy it and experience all the stuff we've been waiting for, instead of, sitting around and getting older to a point where they couldn't do that kind of stuff.
Sure. Makes sense.
Yeah, right. It's admirable, because people are like, oh boy, you got a lot of money tied up in that rig. Well, yeah, but now's the time.
Yep. And you can't take it with you.
That's right. And he already had alluded this past weekend, so I think they've had the camper out maybe 3 or 4 times. And he did kind of allude to possibly downsizing in the future, because maybe they won't do as much with the bikes, or maybe they won't do as much. His kids might, his daughter might end up getting her own rig, tent,
right.
Whatever.
Right.
But he's also kind of looking at a performance side by side to go trail riding with.
Oh, okay.
Because they've rented them before, but it's like, if you can own one and carry it with you, go to the mountains. Yeah, why not? Enjoy it, right? So it was cool, and we like camping with them. They're good friends, and we all get along nice, and we all contribute. We'll make food, they'll make food. It'll all hit the table, and it's wonderful. And we share, and we like to do similar stuff. So during the day, the weather was nice, so we went outside, and Kelly and Rick went fishing. And Linda and I both grabbed lawn chairs and read, because I'm not the world's biggest fisherman, but I brought along a stack of Rod and Customs from 1958. So
nice.
Darn right, I'm going to read those.
Very cool.
Yeah. So it was a nice, quiet. Yeah. And we were on a nice lake with on a little point, so that, in 3 directions all the way around was a nice view of the water. And I don't think Kelly and Rick caught anything, but they threw those poles out quite a bit. And the next day it rained, so we went into the closest town to some antique stores, because we all like digging through old stuff. Yeah. And Rick's got quite a collection of, well, we call him the local museum curator. He's like the town historian. He's got artifacts from this town and old motorcycle stuff and whatever. He's just got kind of an eye for cool old stuff. And I'm always looking, for car parts or, some old thing.
Sure.
Well, I happened by this this booth in this antique store that had a milk crate on the ground in the corner, and it was full of magazines. Well, there's, millions of magazines in antique stores.
Yes.
But I got a little closer, and I see that through the holes of the milk crate, I can make out Mad magazine.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, I dig Mad.
Yeah.
But that might be an indicator of something else, right?
Mm.
So I go grab this milk crate, and I start flipping through, and it's Mad, and then there's Cracked magazine.
I remember Cracked. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Cracked was like a competitor of Mad, but also a satire, more adult comic book, I guess.
Sure.
But I thought, if you read both of those, you might also be into, and here they are,
Here
Cartoons
they are.
magazine.
Nice.
Yeah. So I found 6 copies of cartoons that are from 83 and 84.
That's your
and
time.
It's funny. Well, I think my first one was the August-September issue of 83. And these are the ones that lead right up to that one.
Oh, perfect.
So it's right in line. And an interesting thing happened. So, well, I'm looking at these things. I can't find a price tag on any of them. So I don't know. I don't know what they're worth, but they're in really nice shape.
Mm-hmm.
Back in those days, these magazines had iron-ons in the magazine, right?
Yeah.
So the iron-ons are still there. And
oh, that's amazing.
yeah, and for those who don't have any idea what I'm talking about, Cartoons, of course, was a car-themed cartoon magazine, all black and white, except for the iron-on, which was color, and it was like a car picture or something that you would literally cut out of the magazine and iron it onto a white T-shirt, and then you just made yourself a free shirt. Well, of course, every kid cut those out day one.
Yes.
And had mom iron them onto something. Or in my case, I once made a custom ironing board.
Oh, man.
I had the shirt in the wrong order, I think. And
no, Ma, that's how it does. That's how it works.
Yeah, right. So anyway, this one has the iron-ons, and they're pretty nice. So I'm thinking, yeah, I'll buy these, if I can get them kind of cheap. So I go to the guy at the front of the antique store, and the way these stores work is other people rent space inside of them.
Right.
And put up a display. It's not like the guy at the front of the store owns all this junk. Mm-hmm. So I said, hey, booth 2112, which I thought was kind of a cool Rush reference.
Nice.
Booth 2112 has this crate with some comic books and magazines and stuff, and there's a few that I'd like to get. And he's like, well, how many? I said, 6. Which ones? I said, they're Cartoons magazine. Okay, 6 cartoons. I tell you what, give me $15. Good to go. Right on.
Yeah.
Give him $15. Go back to the campsite, open one of the magazines, and a price tag of $10 falls out.
Oh, boy.
Oh, boy.
Oh, man.
So, unfortunately, this guy might have a little explaining to do.
Oh, jeez. Well, they weren't marked, so what's he going to do?
They were not marked. Right? I know, exactly. Yeah. And it was like jammed all the way in there. And I don't even know if it was for the magazine. It just said $10. So who knows? It could have fallen off something else. That's the way I'll make peace with myself.
I'm sure it did fall off something else. Yeah,
yeah,
it fell off one of the Mad magazines. Those were $10,
right? Mm-hmm. At least. Mm-hmm. But paging through, because my first few issues when I was 10, 12 years old, you want to talk about reading them cover to cover 1,000 times?
Sure.
That's what I did. I was on a family vacation, so I was in the car. I had nothing else to do when I first got this thing, and you get to know the styles and the stories of the particular artists who drew it.
Right.
So you read the byline, and I know who I liked and all that stuff. And it was really interesting for me to find those period magazines with the exact same artists, but with new material for me. Right.
Yeah, that's cool.
So it's like if you found, if your favorite record album came out in 1969 and all of a sudden you found another record by that artist from 69 that had a similar style.
Sure.
It's just all new.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, and I never really anticipated that, but it's like, oh yeah, I remember this guy and I remember this one. So I kind of flipped through those. And the other thing that's pretty cool about these is the covers are all color, and they're very vivid, and they're they're supposed to be eye catching, of course, being a magazine cover. But I always remember trying to figure out how they drew these things, and because some of them, I guess, were painted, like maybe an acrylic paint, and some of them are markers, and maybe one's colored pencils or whatever. And I had the fortune to meet some of the artists that did cartoons back in the day. When I was working for Hot Rod, I interviewed some for a TV episode. And I got to talk to them and see them kind of work and do their thing. But that might be one of my new little art projects, is to try and replicate some of the styles of a cartoon's cover.
Oh, nice.
Right. Except maybe use our Galaxy or something, or your GTO or whatever, and, work it in.
Yeah.
And then I was telling this to somebody today, and he's like, well, the publisher of cartoons now, right? I said, yeah, it's Mark Mathot. He's like, well, maybe you will end up in there after all these years. Who knows?
How about that?
So who knows? I don't know.
Man, it'd be a dream come true.
It would be pretty neat.
Yeah.
So we'll see if I can pull that off.
Nice, man.
Yeah. So it was a nice camping experience. That's the kind of stuff that can happen.
Amazing. Magic happens at the campground.
Exactly.
At the antique shop.
One of the stories in that '58 Rod and Custom magazine was about a car club out of Southern California called the. Now I can't remember what the heck they were called. They were called the Cutouts. The Cutouts.
Okay.
And I was pretty surprised. Have you ever been in a car club?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I've been in the Cruisin' Tigers GTO club for a while. And when I was in the Air Force, I was in the Central Oklahoma GTO club. And the Chicago Volkswagen organization when I was in the VWs.
The CVO?
The CVO, yes, sir.
Right on.
Yeah.
Well, I knew you were in the Cruisin' Tigers GTO club, but to me that seems like more of an organization than a club. I mean, it's a lot of people, big events.
Yes.
And to me, I always kind of associated a car club with like a bunch of guys in a garage, a clubhouse kind of thing.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
And maybe I'm wrong. They've evolved over the years, but this Cutouts group, I was very, very intrigued to learn how stringent the rules were back then.
Oh, yeah?
And what you had to do. Yeah, because you got to remember, in the 50s, hot rodders were still trying to change their image. These guys were mostly looked at as, rebels and outlaws and hoodlums and dirtbags, because they're driving these jalopies around and making noise and racing and drinking and all this kind of stuff. So Wally Parks, who started the NHRA, part of their initiative was to introduce safety into racing and get people to race on the track. And it was like the first PR campaign to up the image.
Sure.
Well, Rod and Custom recognized that to be successful, these rods and these customs need to be accepted. So they spotlighted this car club, and some of the rules were like, you couldn't have any speeding tickets.
No kidding.
And if you had a speeding ticket, not only did you have to pay whatever the fine was, or the court supervision for the legal side, but you owed the car club $1 for every mile over you got caught.
Oh man!
Yeah, you believe that? And other things like you couldn't drink at a club event or a club meeting.
Okay.
And they had all of their officers and the sergeant at arms and and then they had a clubhouse that they owned that you had to maintain and display your wares and trophies. You had to have a really killer car. Your car basically had to apply to get in. So these guys were all about custom. So lead sleds, and you had to have major modifications done. Chop top and lake pipes and nosed and decked and shaved.
Frenched in headlights and stuff.
Oh,
yeah.
You couldn't just show up with something stock or some piece of crap. And then at club events, you had to wear the garb. So they specified white pants, And,
Wow.
then they had a shirt, and they had like a white club jacket. And if you got caught at an event without wearing the club stuff, you could get thrown out.
That's crazy.
It is crazy. And I'm reading this saying, were they just doing this to try and, sell the public on car club people not being dirtbags?
Not being dirtbags, yeah. Well,
how stringent was this? Were any of these enforced? Was the first question.
oh, I see.
But then they also had this other thing that I thought was pretty cool, and they would print up cards, like business cards. And the club members, now, of course, this is 1958 in Southern California, so it was a different time. But if somebody was on the side of the road with their hood up, which happened, or a flat tire, or, out of gas or whatever, the club member, would stop and help them out. And if they got them on their way, they would give them a card that said, "You've been helped by a car club guy."
Wow.
As another little PR thing.
It's like guerrilla marketing.
It was.
Yeah.
It was very sophisticated for the time, even for now.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't think you could, people, you're afraid to stop and help someone today.
Yeah, that's the sad state of affairs we're in. And if you are broke down, you're probably a little apprehensive when somebody does stop to help you. Like, what's this guy going to do? Is he sees me as prey now?
Right. Or it's a setup, where the person really doesn't need help. They just got the hood up because they're going to,
right. Ambush you.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Yeah, that sucks. But that's those rules are something else, man.
Yeah, it was pretty neat. And some of the cars they had were killer. They did a little feature on some of the cars. And I tried to see what happened to them. And the club, unfortunately, is no longer. There are some car clubs in California in particular that are still around that from that time period. But these guys, they aren't any longer. And I even went so far as to look up some of the names on Facebook and see if,
any surviving members?
Right. Or a son with the same name or something, with a picture of dad or grandpa's car or something. Because that would be super cool.
Oh, that would be way cool. Absolutely.
Yeah. And I didn't have really much cell service on my camping trip when I was reading this stuff. So I might still try to pursue that a little bit. There was a feature also in the magazine about some guy who had a wild custom, started off as a Corvette, but it had electronic steering that was remote controlled.
What?
So they had this dude had it appeared to be wireless, but a big box of switches on it. It looked kind of like some of the hopping lowriders. They got their switch box for the hydraulics and they stand next to the car and bounce it. But this dude had a thing that he could start it, he could shut it off, he could steer it, it could roll the windows up and down, and the whole hood, I think, was power, tilt, front end.
Oh, nice.
All remote control, right? And the article was talking about how this guy's like 19 years old or something, and he was this electronics wizard. And I thought, I wonder what happened to that guy.
Right.
So I Googled his name, and there's like nothing. So that generation and that time period is like just before a lot of records were kept.
Oh, that's a shame.
Yeah.
Oh, I'd love to get that guy's story.
Yeah. I mean, he might have been part of, the Apollo team or something. Who knows?
Sounds like he was smart enough.
That particular one was from 62, I think. But these old magazines have, a lot to offer when it comes to looking at this stuff, especially if you're not just looking at the pictures, and you get a different perspective on what life was like. And
yeah, I get that. I mean, the clubs I've been in, or like you said, the organizations, completely not like that at all.
Yeah, right.
No, not like that at all.
Mm-hmm.
Which is too bad. I mean, it sounds like it would be cool to be part of a group like that, and everybody just has that common thread, and they all have really cool custom cars, and not some cookie cutter, like an Impala that just came off the showroom floor. Nice car, not for this though.
Right. And that presence where everybody's on board, they show up somewhere, everybody recognizes them, they know they're respectable guys, they know they're there to lend a hand, they're, and believe me, it doesn't necessarily mean that other organizations don't do that. And I've certainly seen and know, people that are in motorcycle clubs and are pretty scary looking that would take a bullet for you. It's got really nothing to do with that, but just to architect all the bylaws, if you will, that's the mission, is to help elevate the image of hot rodding and custom cars. And that you don't see anymore.
No, you don't. Yeah. Which is too bad.
Kids today.
These kids, I tell you.
Yeah, you better off buying yourself a truck.
Yeah, get out of my lawn.
All right. Well, nobody on the entire planet Earth has fingernails anymore because they've chewed them all off, waiting for our trivia question answers.
Have they now? Okay. All right. Well, then let's not keep them waiting any longer. All right, Kevin. So I asked you, what model did Studebaker discontinue due to Adolf Hitler's rise to power?
Right.
Yeah. And Kevin said,
"Oh man,
the Studebaker Swastika." And 9, Kevin, 9. That is not the answer. Yeah. All right, the correct answer, and you're gonna love this, the Studebaker Dictator.
Oh man,
the Studebaker Dictator, and it was discontinued in 1937.
Wow.
Yeah.
Look at that. So I was kind of on the right track, but not.
Yeah,
really.
I mean, you were dancing all around it, and if I swear, when you said, "All right, I'm just going to put it out there," Studebaker Dictator, I swear I thought that was going to come out of your mouth. Yeah. I was going to just flip. But yeah.
Interesting. Well, it's funny because I guess in my upbringing and teaching and whatever, I don't really equate Hitler with a dictator. I think like Idi Amin is a dictator.
Sure.
And, Mussolini was a dictator, fascist, but he was kind of the same cloth as Hitler. But I guess the word dictator just doesn't sound German to me. So maybe that was the disconnect.
Maybe.
All right, I got it wrong. Nice. Boy, I'm doing great this year.
Oh, man.
All right. Well, my question to you was, why are they called Nerf bars?
Kevin Oski with the gripping, hard-hitting questions.
That's it, man. And you said, if you bump into it, it does not cause damage, and the name Nerf just organically appeared.
That's correct.
So you certainly described what a Nerf bar is with the first part of your answer. But the second part is not necessarily...
Not quite there, huh?
Yeah.
Didn't quite make it, Mike.
No. It's actually an old racing term.
Really?
Yeah, and it goes back to like the midgets and the quarter midgets, and they had Nerf bars on them. And the term was that if you bumped into somebody, you nerfed them.
Oh.
And people were getting nerfed on the track, so they didn't want their car either getting spun out or cracked up, so they created these little anti-Nerf bars, little Nerf bars. So you kind of use the word Nerf in that bumping.
Yeah, I mean, I described its function, but not the origin, which is what you're looking for.
Right. Why are they called Nerf bars?
You're right. So. Not what do they do.
Right.
Yeah, I never knew it was called getting nerfed.
I didn't either.
Yeah.
Until over the weekend, as I was camping, I thought, let's see. We need more bacon. Where's the coffee? Gee, I wonder why they call them Nerf bars. Where's a good spot for Kelly to go fishing? This is how my mind works.
Nice. Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah. All right, we both lose. Don't feel so bad. This would be much more painful if there were prizes involved, but of course there's not.
Oh, man. I'd lose my house if there were prizes involved.
Well, it's not like you got to give something back if you
That's how bad my answers are. I would be forced to give up things.
Yeah. All right. Well, this was fun.
Yes, sir. Great time.
Yeah. Some interesting topics. I wish you good luck on the search for the truck.
Thank you.
I'll forward you things that I come across.
Thank you. So hopefully by our next episode, we'll have more to talk about on that front.
It'll be Mikey Q, the trucker.
That's right. Woo woo!
Yeah, right on. All right. Well, we thank you for tuning in to this guileless episode of V8 Radio. If you like this kind of thing, hit that subscribe button, and we'll make sure the podcast distribution house makes sure to send you more episodes if you subscribe. If you want to just chat with us, jump on our Facebook page, V8 Radio Podcast, and play along with the trivia question. Oh, you don't want to play along with this one.
Let this one die, please.
Yeah. But any other topics you want to share, or ideas or whatnot, we're happy to entertain those. We always appreciate everybody tuning in. It's we get some very nice feedback from people that dig the show, and that's nice to hear. So, got anything else?
No, man. I'm all
That's
good.
it.
That's it.
All right, me too.
I've done enough.
Yeah, you got that right. So for Mr. Mike Q-Ball Clarke, I'm Kevin Ostie, reminding you to keep the shiny side up, and we will see you next time on VA Radio.